So any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Chester Sombrano, I-95.5 FM. Now, Mr. Sandy, the gang leaders and gang members aren't necessarily the ones responsible for the international transportation of drugs and money. What is really being done to target the big fish, the persons who are really responsible for the movement of these guns and drugs internationally?
This is a question that I have responded to on numerous occasions. We are now pursuing, by means of the Financial Intelligence Unit, by means of the Financial Intelligence Branch, and as we speak, a lot of work is being done in that area to ensure those people you speak about, I think you're speaking in terms of the white-collar crime, those people that you're speaking about are now being targeted. But this has nothing to do with our state of emergency. This has been happening even before now.
To Commissioner Gibbs, out of the 315 persons who were arrested, can you say how many of those persons have been so far been charged, and how many persons may have been released from custody?
Well, currently we have 315 people that we've arrested and detained. We are working to put the people that have been arrested that will be charged through to the prison system. Those ones that will be detained, we'll look at to see if there's any reason to continue to hold them, and we'll release them accordingly. At this point, I don't have a breakdown. I can tell you that you've asked about what are we doing about the larger people of these gangs. We have arrested a few of them. I certainly can't name them. I can say that as recently as today, we did have one individual, a large drug trafficker, basically from Trinidad, picked up in Tobago. So for those individuals that think they can escape the net that we're putting out there, I just want to say, go ahead and try. We're going to come after you and go after you where we need to. As far as when you talk about the big drug trade or different things too, of course, last weekend I was down in Brazil, actually, with different countries that are trying to form collaborations to deal with the drug trafficking that comes through from South America through Trinidad and Tobago as a transshipment point. It's these type of collaborations, sharing of information, intelligence, and work with our international partners that'll help stop some of the larger players from the international countries coming through Trinidad and Tobago.
But are persons being charged?
There will be, yes. Again, I don't have that breakdown for you, but it is our main focus is to not just detain people, but to actually put charges against them and to lead that evidence in court down the road.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney General, but when the persons are held, I think legally they can be held for 24 hours unless there's more evidence, and I think a senior superintendent could increase it to 7 days.
They can be held initially for a period of 24 hours, after which someone from the rank of assistant superintendent or above, or a magistrate can extend that period under the regulations for up to 7 days. But once you're charged, you're taken out of the loop. Once you're charged, the normal principles of criminal law and criminal procedure applies. But permit me to say, correct one misconception. The idea that we are not going after the big fish is not correct, you know. People seem to think that these gang leaders and these gangs are small fries. I don't know where they get that idea from. They're not. The gangs that we are after are big fish. The gang leaders are very big fish. And the monies and the trade that they're involved in and the illegal activities that they're involved in make them very big fish. So the idea that we are not going after big fish is totally misconceived. The gangs that we are after are very well organized. They are structured. It's a criminal enterprise. They have rank and file, status, their own creed, their own symbols in some cases. These are very sophisticated gangs. So that to think that we are not going after big fish, quite frankly, we are going after the big fish and we are catching the big fish.
I'd like to stick with the Attorney General on that particular point, and referring to an earlier question with respect to the Financial Intelligence Unit. Now, while they were doing their own investigations earlier on, given this current state of emergency, have they intensified those operations, and there's a greater amount of collaboration with the security services at this point? Also, what's the current status in terms of the operational staffing at the FIU and director, deputy directors, and so on? Anything you could speak to on that?
Well, the FIU falls under the Minister of Finance, and I'm not in a position to answer questions in relation to that. Those questions would be better suited to the Minister of Finance, I'm afraid.
I can add some light to that, because the director, the FIU has been appointed, the deputy director has been appointed, and as we speak, staff is being appointed to the FIU and FIB.
Hi, Commissioner. In terms of the figures called out so far, it's saying that 315 arrests have been made, 115 gang members have been held, but only 9 firearms have been seized. Now, the majority of murders in the country have been gun-related. Is there any concern that these gang members have found a way to hide their guns during this state of emergency?
Well, as far as the guns and ammunition, this has always been a concern for us, because, as we know, there's lots of places in Trinidad and Tobago that the weapons can be hidden. One of the things, though, that we do know is that as we make the arrests of individuals and take them away from the locations where they're normally located, that'll give us opportunity to even do greater searches of the area, talk to more individuals in the area that could provide information, and hopefully through that we'll actually see a greater number of weapons seized in the future. Right now, of course, the bad guys know that we're out there, and so it's not in their best interest to keep the weapons directly with them under this state of emergency. So as we go in and deal with the individuals, the weapons are not necessarily under their pillows. They're certainly probably not too far away, but they're not under their pillows. So we still have some work to do to secure some of the weapons that are out there.
Okay, the Attorney General made a statement earlier in terms of the prisons. Of the persons that have been arrested so far, 315, can you give us some sort of clarification as to where they are being held? Is there like a specific area that all are being held, or are they being held in the specific jurisdictions that they were arrested in?
Currently, of course, we have our holding cells at the various stations, and the members or the people that we have arrested and detained are held at those stations. Again, as we process them, as we lay charges, we move them through the normal process into the prison system. Those ones that we will no longer detain, of course, are released. At this point, again, we're filling them up fast, but we've always got enough room.
Kino Swamba from the Express newspaper. Either for the AG or for the Commissioner, when the success of the state of emergency be better measured by the number of convictions rather than the amount of arrests, because anyone could be arrested, but without the requisite evidential backup, the cases may fall by the wayside.
I think that would measure the success of the prosecutions, but in terms of an operation of this nature, the success of it would be measured by the number of arrests and charges. It would be a matter, the success or failure of a case in court depends on so many factors that are extraneous to the operation we have embarked on. It would not be a correct measurement to go long term to that end.
And secondly, would government be asking Parliament for an extension of the state of emergency period?
As we indicated before, we are reviewing this on a day-to-day basis, I think the Honorable Minister of National Security has indicated that we will utilize the constitutional limit of 15 days, and thereafter we will review and evaluate this operation, its success or its failure, and we will decide based on the response we've had whether we should go further to seek the 3-month extension in Parliament.
Kamal George, CNC3. With regards to the amount of guns we've collected so far, is there a concern that there are police officers or soldiers who are finding guns and not bringing it in? And are there measures in place to ensure that all guns recovered are accounted for?
We can both take it, but I'll start. Certainly, when it comes to seizure of weapons, we have implicit trust with our partners. We know in the past there's been stories of corruption between the police service, the Defence Force, other law enforcement agencies. At this particular moment, I'm very confident that our men and women out there are working very hard, doing the right things. And certainly, if there's anything that they are doing that is not correct, if they aren't seizing the weapons and following through with the proper arrests, they will be taken to task throughout this process.
I just want to add to that, please, from the Defence Force perspective, and share the very same sentiments as the Commissioner of Police. Of course, in the membership of the Defence Force. Notwithstanding the fact that I have ultimate confidence and trust in the membership, especially in this circumstance, just want to point out specifically that we do have the way in which these patrols are structured in terms of the rank structure supervising the actions of men on the ground. That oversight is built into the way we operate so that there is that degree of accountability and transparency built into the way we conduct our operations on the ground.
With regards to the 315 people who have been detained, are all 315 still in custody, or have some been released? Are all still in custody?
Yes, at this point, all 315 are still in custody.
And to the Attorney General, the anti-gang legislation, has that been proclaimed? Because I think there was some confusion this morning when the gentlemen from Nelson Street were brought to court. There was some confusion there. So has it been proclaimed?
The answer is yes. The Anti-Gang Act is now law, and it has been proclaimed together with its sister amendment to the Bail Act.
Atiba Wilshire from Power 102 again. Mr. Attorney General, you have been making calls for members of the public to come forward and give information about gang leaders and people who are engaged in nefarious activities. My question is, have people been coming forward?
That is why we say these are intelligence-driven operations and efforts. People have been coming forward. They have been phoning in. They've been sharing with us critical and vital information regarding criminal activities in their own community. And community-based intelligence is, in fact, the best form of intelligence, so that we are relying very heavily on them. Of course, you get the odd crank call, and you get some people who are up to no good. But by and large, people have taken this state of emergency very seriously. They've seen it as a window of opportunity for the country to exhale and breathe a sigh of relief. And the response has been overwhelming. And tomorrow, as mentioned by the Honorable Minister of National Security, we will in fact be providing some new hotline numbers for people to phone in round the clock, which will be manned 24 hours round the clock, to receive information and intelligence. So as we go along and as the days progress, we can in fact improve upon the success of this operation.
Well, what would you say is the success rate of the information given leading to arrest and detention of persons?
I can't say, because I'm not in charge of that aspect of it, and I think that our energies are more concentrated and focused on actually receiving the information and acting upon it rather than actually compiling that particular statistic.
I would like to add that we would love to get all the firearms off the streets. But were we not to do that, I wanted to advise that, having regard to the information that was at our disposal when we took this decision, that we are confident averted some of the things that would have happened. And that in itself is a measure of success.
as you brought up that issue of exactly what prompted the government and the information that was available to government, which prompted this national state of emergency, can you tell us, is there any truth to reports that a quantity of guns which was intended I'm not sure if it's the regiment, but intended for this country, went missing? There are reports circulating to that effect.
Well, I've heard the rumor, and there's no truth in that from any of the law enforcement organizations in Trinidad and Tobago, be it state or otherwise, because someone was saying as well, no, it was not for the army or the police, it was for a security company. There is no truth in that.
Mr. Ramlogan, over the years, we've seen a backlog of cases at the courts. Do you think the justice system is now capable of handling the amount of cases that may be coming its way?
One of the first bills which will be introduced in the new session of Parliament would be the abolition of the preliminary inquiries bill. And once we abolish preliminary inquiries, a lot of the offences that would be preferred, a lot of the charges, that would be preferred, are in fact summary or either way offences, and they will in fact take place before the magistrates' court. When you abolish preliminary inquiries, the magistrates will have a lot more time on their hands, so they can have that excess capacity and absorb these new cases. So the answer is yes, it can.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings to an end our media conference. I also want to recognize the presence of Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Richardson, and Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Stephen Williams, who is also here this afternoon, and the Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Mr. Colin Partap. I want to leave the final word, Minister, to you, if you would like to so do and conclude.
Thank you, Minister. As I indicated earlier, I want to reiterate my plea to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to indicate to you that the inconveniences that you have been experiencing over the past 4 days and those that you will experience in the few days to come are necessary. We have made special efforts with respect to our law enforcement officers to ensure that you are not more inconvenienced than necessary. And we want to thank you for the support that you are giving to us.